A man has admitted that he got in an SUV and he ran down a teenager, crushing him, killing him. And he did it because he said the kid was part of a Republican extremist group. That man is now free on bond. Think about any other circumstance that we've seen in this country, and it's always the same story. Let's talk about Kyle Rittenhouse. He's in his own neighborhood where his family lives. He has a legal firearm. The city is being ransacked and burned down. Someone threatens to murder him several times, chases him, and only after someone fires a gun does Rittenhouse turn around. And only after this man reaches for the weapon and nearly grabs it does Kyle fire upon him. He flees to the police. He's attacked. He went to jail for over 2 months. They did not let him out. He did eventually post bond or bail or whatever and get out. Think about how the media maligned him. How they said that he crossed state lines with a weapon. No. That he wasn't even from there. That he was hunting down black people. That he was a white supremacist. All of the lies. And of course, it's not just him. Think about, think about what happened in the Summer of Love in Minnesota. David Dorn, for instance. People who were killed and murdered. And we don't hear anything about these people. And then think about what happens with Chauvin and other officers. Right now, there's a big story where apparently one of the officers is going to be getting like 3 years in prison and he has to register as a predatory offender or something like that. And here we have a story where a man has confessed. He has outright stated that he did this over politics, terrorism, free on bond. Like that. A couple days later. Yeah. So when people say there's not going to be a civil war, it might de-escalate, I think you're wrong. I think you are in it. People are killing other people. And it's clear that the legal system is only flowing in one direction, as it's been for some time. Antifa and BLM can go and destroy cities, and Kamala Harris can bail them out, raise money from other people to do so. Joe Biden's staff can do the same thing. Yet, Kyle Rittenhouse, acting independently in his own neighborhood, defending his community, the media tries to destroy his life. And even now, I'm hearing reports. I don't know too much of the details, but he's facing civil lawsuits. Yeah, from Fox News. North Dakota man free. The North Dakota man who allegedly admitted to fatally striking a teenage pedestrian with his car because the pair had a political argument was released from jail on Tuesday after posting $50,000 bond. Shannon Brandt, 41, spent just days in Stutzman County Jail on criminal charges related to the death of 18-year-old Kayler Ellingson before he posted his $50,000 bond and was released. Brandt, a Glenfield resident, was arrested in the early morning hours of Sunday after he told the state first responders radio that he struck the pedestrian because the pedestrian was threatening him, according to a probable cause affidavit provided to a Fox News Digital on Wednesday morning. Brandt stated the pedestrian called some people and Brandt was afraid they were coming to get him. Brandt admitted to state radio that he hit the pedestrian and the pedestrian was part of a Republican extremist group. Oh, he was being threatened, which justifies why he got into an SUV and chased the kid down. The kid called his mom saying this guy was threatening him, and then he killed him in a vehicle. Okay. North Dakota Highway Patrol on Sunday reported that there was a street dance on Jones Street near Hunnock Street in McHenry when Brandt struck Ellingson and then fled the scene. Interesting. Ellingson was rushed to a local hospital with serious injuries but could not be saved. Brandt's and Ellingson's families both showed up at the scene shortly after police arrived. He or they were chasing him. Here's what the probable cause affidavit says. On September 18th, I blank, redacted, was contacted by redacted. Looks like it says Sergeant something. And requested to respond to Northern Foster County for a fatality hit and run accident. I responded from my resident north of Jamestown, according to state radio logs. The reporting party, identified as Shannon Brandt, stated that he struck the pedestrian because the pedestrian was threatening him. Well, that is some clarification. It wasn't initially, as it was reported, that because he was just a Republican. Brandt stated that the pedestrian called some people and Brandt was afraid they were coming to get him. Brandt admitted to state radio that he hit the pedestrian and that the pedestrian was part of a Republican extremist group. Once on scene, I met with Redacted and was shown the area of the incident. Limited evidence was observed in the nighttime. A first responder who was first on scene was interviewed and shown where the male pedestrian's body was approximately located. The responder, identified as Redacted, stated the family of the pedestrian showed up along with the family of Brandt shortly after his arrival. I declare under penalty of perjury under North Dakota law. The foregoing is true. The foregoing is true and correct. Just a couple weeks after Joe Biden said these people are a threat, a paranoid and psychotic man fears an 18-year-old kid and claims he's being threatened, gets in his vehicle, runs him down. Now, the thing is, this kid apparently called his mom and said this dude was threatening him or coming after him or something like that, and he needed to be picked up. Doesn't sound like this guy's story makes a whole lot of sense. Sounds like he's paranoid and he heard Joe Biden saying the MAGA Republicans and he's like, oh, there's MAGA children. Dangerous psychopaths. And he's free, walking around, capable of doing it again in a paranoid, delusional state. This guy should have been remanded. You know, this idea, he was being threatened. You're in a car, dude. You're in an SUV. And there's a bunch of kids. Leave. Chasing him down and ramming him in an alley? No, hold on. I don't know the full details. I don't know exactly what happened. We've seen stories like in Provo, Utah, where a guy's driving down the street and some Antifa guy shoots him, runs up to the window and shoots him. We've seen similar stories, and it's hard to know exactly what went down. But I think so far what we know, this guy, regardless, should not be out publicly on bail. Ellingson's parents later told police they knew Brandt, but they did not believe their son did. Ellingson's mother described how she was on her way to pick up her son from McHenry when he called her and said that he or they were chasing him. She could no longer reach him after that. So this guy was being threatened, but he was chasing this kid. He's lying. Investigators later tracked Brandt to his Glenfield home where they stopped him outside the house and he began talking. He admitted to consuming alcohol. So he was driving drunk, chased down some kid, killed him. Now, hold on. Maybe the kid was just saying he's chasing me. Who knows the details? Here's what we can say. A man in a vehicle said he was threatened. He was drinking. He crushed a kid. Here's what we have from the police probable cause affidavit. Redacted responded to Brandt's parents' house in rural McHenry and then to Brandt's house in Glenfield. There, Brandt was interviewed by Sergeant Redacted outside his residence and admitted to consuming alcohol prior to the incident. Brandt admitted to striking the pedestrian with his car because he had a political argument with the pedestrian and believed the pedestrian was calling people to come get him. Brandt admitted to leaving the scene of the incident and returning shortly after where he called 911. Brandt did not remain on scene till law enforcement arrived and ultimately returned to his residence. Brandt was placed under arrest for DUI, redacted. And so there's another charge that we're not seeing, and transported to Stutzman County Jail. Brandt was advised of his Miranda rights and the implied consent advisory. Brandt consented to a chemical breath test. The results of the chemical breath test were above the legal limit of 0.08. He was drunk, delusional, chased down a kid, and killed him. And this guy released on bail. The judge said $50,000. This guy he's probably a blue anon psychopath cultist. One of these people who's sitting there watching CNN shaking and going, and he killed a kid. He killed a kid. Teenager, young man, fine, either way. It's crazy. Brandt was ultimately charged with criminal vehicular homicide and leaving the scene of a crash involving a death. Jail records show Brandt was charged with driving under the influence, though a criminal complaint did not include the charge. They say the report's headline was updated to clarify that Brandt allegedly admitted to striking the teenager, not killing him. Well, I suppose that's important, but it did kill him. So if he admitted to striking the teen, what? The kid then got up, slipped, fell, hit his head, and then died? Sorry. This is the crazy thing here from the Post-Millennial. North Dakota man who intentionally killed conservative failed to render aid and fled scene. Now, you want to argue, I suppose, that allegedly he did these things. Fine. Innocent until proven guilty. Just because the police are saying he did it, I'd like to see how the court case is resolved. But if the man really did admit to hitting the teen with an SUV, then I believe he admitted to intentionally killing the teenager. Early Sunday morning, Shannon Brandt allegedly ran over 18-year-old Kayla Ellingson. Now, the revelation here, which was mentioned in Fox News, let me read a little bit more here. Mia Cathell says, an affidavit says Brandt fatally struck the teen over a political argument. Mia Cathell says, I've obtained a search warrant and criminal complaint that says Brandt failed to render aid to the dying teen who was found slain in an alleyway, fled the fatal hit-and-run crime, and returned to his residence in a different city where he was later arrested. So this may be slightly incorrect. The teen apparently had very serious injuries, was dying, and was left to die. This is important. He died apparently at the hospital. They could not save him. This is important because it's possible that had this guy rendered aid, this 18-year-old may have actually lived. This is the world that we live in right now. And I don't know what to tell you. They're trying to take away your right to defend yourself. Antifa and Black Lives Matter ran up and shot a guy in Provo, Utah. Dozens died in the Summer of Love riots, the George Floyd riots. And this is where we are now, only a couple weeks after Joe Biden's unhinged rant, screaming of the threat of Trump supporters. He tried walking it back, but we know what he was talking about. This happens. I want to show you the inversion here. Matt Walsh. He responds to a guy named Zach Hunt. Let's see. Who is this Zach guy? Zach is just he's a verified Twitter guy. He says, hey, FBI and the Justice Department and Minneapolis, or not, it's MN, it's Metro Nashville Police Department. So I assumed MN was Minnesota. MNPD Nashville. Matt Walsh is targeting Vanderbilt Hospital the same way he targeted Boston's Children's Hospital. Please intervene before another one of his followers starts calling in bomb threats or worse. Matt Walsh says leftists are trying to get me arrested or for factual reporting on Vanderbilt's transgender clinic. Here's another one from Matt Walsh. Alejandra Caraballo. Vanderbilt Medical Center has had to shift medical appointments for its trans clinic to virtual telehealth appointments as a result of threats being made. Matt Walsh is inciting a terror campaign against a hospital and disrupting care. He will get people hurt or killed. Matt says, I'm reporting on what the hospital is doing and providing extensive documentation and video evidence. You are desperate to shut down any conversation about the drugging and mutilation of children because you know you cannot defend it. This is their only tactic. We shed a light on their own behavior and they cry incitement. It's pathetic, gutless, dishonest ploy and it won't work. Now, here's the point. Different stories. When Matt Walsh does reporting as a commentator and pundit and journalist, they call the police. They scream for the police. They claim he's inciting violence. On the right, where's what's being done? What's being done about this man who literally just killed a teenager and admitted it was terrorism? Anything? Crickets? Nothing, I guess. Our good friend Jack Posobiec has this tweet. He says, here is the Republican, in quotes, AG of North Dakota's first comments on the murder of Kayla Ellingson. He said, first, good morning. Second, bail is set by judges, not prosecutors. Darg Ismaga responds, and what is your recommendation for bail? And he says, state's attorney is the prosecutor. It's absolutely quite incredible. The Attorney General of North Dakota has a lot of powers, and he can do a lot of things. He's the Attorney General. He can go after this guy. He can do a lot. Look at what Merrick Garland is doing at the federal level. It's amazing. And this is it. He can't do anything, can he? Okay, how about this? New York AG Letitia James announces lawsuit of Donald Trump, his company, and his family members over fraud claims. You mean after several years of criminal accusations leaked to the press, the best they could muster up was a civil lawsuit because Trump's company did not do anything wrong. Or at least the Trump family didn't. That's all they could muster. I don't care about this story right now. My point is, the AG of New York is bringing down the iron fist on Donald Trump by any means necessary. A civil lawsuit over fraud claims, the best they could muster, but it's something they could. Meanwhile, the AG, the Republican, Drew H. Wrigley, is just like, it's the prosecutor and the judge. Don't look at me. Yeah, Republicans are useless and everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. So what? I see these memes. They're really funny. It's like, Republican, the RNC is asking for donations. And it's like, why would I give the RNC any money? I'm not. You get nothing. I'm not giving you money. Sorry. Trump's people, maybe. I don't trust Trump all that much, to be completely honest. He raised a bunch of money off that Stop the Steal stuff that I think is just absurd. I think there are reforms we can enact. If there was like a voter integrity thing, I'd be fine with that. But I don't necessarily trust Trump either, but I would donate directly to people I think are fighting and doing a good job. Rand Paul, I think, does a great job. There's many MAGA Republicans who I think are doing a good job. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing a good job. I think many of these MAGA Republicans are fighting back. And this is why they lose their minds. The tactics used by the left, literally to murder children. Okay, he was 18. He's a young man. I'll slow down. Literally to murder teenagers. In this case, a teenager. Police, to beat them, to attack them, to defend it, to fundraise on behalf of it, to ignore the problems and the threats, and then use the media to keep everyone silent. What do the Republicans do? Well, I'm going to have a humble argument with you about this. I'm sick of people like Drew Wrigley. I get it. The prosecutor is the one who has to prosecute here, but he's the AG. There's a ton of things he could do. But more importantly, if the left is willing to use the attorneys general in various jurisdictions to bring an iron fist down on their opponents, and it's unethical or wrong, well, then we're done. I had Rick Santorum on Timcast IRL. Maybe you saw it. And respect, I appreciate the guy coming on and voicing his opinion. I humbly disagree. He said, we can't play the same game. We have to play by the rules. They're. Let me explain something to you. We're all playing a game of Monopoly right now. We're playing a good old game of Monopoly. You roll the die, boom, you land on Baltic Avenue or whatever. Hey, there you go. I'll buy it. And as you're going around the chessboard and playing by the rules, we are watching the left just grab $500 bills out of the bank, and you're like, you can't do that. It's cheating. And you're like, do you want to keep playing or not? And we're like, I guess. That's what they're doing. And I mean, to be honest, quite literally, like the Federal Reserve and the printing of money. They're going around. They land on the go to jail. They go directly to jail, and then they're like, no. And you're like, but you landed on it. Don't care. Do you want to keep playing? It's like, fine, I guess. Then you land on like Broadway and you're like, I'm going to buy it. And they go, actually go to jail. What? And they pick your piece up and they put it in the jail. And you're like, but I'm not in jail. And they're like, you are. Do you want to keep playing? Yeah, okay, I guess. That's what it feels like all day, every day. And then people say, why are you sitting here letting them do that? Why are you letting them put you in jail when your guy didn't even land on the go to jail thing and their guy did? And you won't even put that. Well, I don't know. Because they're the one who set the board up. They're the banker. They can just do it. Maybe stop playing. Maybe put their piece in jail. That's the game. The game is the left will cheat. And the right won't. There you go. And you lose. Because they're literally, this guy, he killed a kid. Okay? A figurative kid. Teenager, a young man. He killed him. And he's free. He's walking around. No press coverage. No big media storm. This should be national news. The terroristic murdering of a Republican child. Okay, I know. I keep saying it. A Republican teenager. The terroristic murder. Nothing. Where's the Republican leaders? Look, where's even any of these federal level politicians to come out and say, this is Joe Biden? There should be wall-to-wall outrage from every single Republican. A teenager who supports you was murdered. There should be bills being introduced called the Kaler-Ellingson Act. There should be inquiries and there should be, Joe Biden should be impeached for this. There should be articles of impeachment introduced right now because the words of Joe Biden himself has resulted in this. Don't tell me it's a coincidence that 2 weeks after Joe Biden says MAGA Republicans are extremists, that a guy says he's a Republican extremist and then runs him down and flees the scene. Even the Republicans we like, where y'all at? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start texting people. I'm going to start texting people being like, what's going on? I'm going to start tweeting about it. I'm going to start tweeting at people. Jack, come back on the show. Let's talk about it. Let's sit here and call out as many Republicans as possible and say, why aren't you holding a press conference right now and demanding a federal investigation into what this guy did? Why aren't you calling out Joe Biden and demanding an apology. They do it. The left will do it. They'll blame Donald Trump for farting. Trump will fart, and then they'll say that he's coming after fast food restaurant workers or some other nonsense. They'll just make it up as they go. Yeah, well, there you go. This is worrying stuff, man. It's scary stuff. It's maddening. It's sad. Matt Walsh's reporting on Vanderbilt is it's good stuff. It's good work. And so they're screaming that he's inciting violence. They want him arrested. They would wield the power of the FBI against a man for tweeting, and we can't even get one person to call on any kind of action against this guy who ran down a kid. It's amazing, isn't it? The media will scream and scream and scream about Donald Trump, even after Donald Trump is long out of office. And we can't get anything about what just happened. He's free. He's free to go. Free to go. Innocent until proven guilty. Yeah, we get it. There's going to be more of it. And unless the Republicans in North Dakota and at the federal level are willing to actually do their jobs and push back, then it's going to get worse. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.